All right. So today we'll see arrays concept. So in the last classes, we have seen functions, loops, conditional statements, and some basics of programming languages. And today we'll focus on arrays concept. So in every programming language, we have same concept, arrays concept. Even TypeScript, JavaScript, also we have a same arrays concept. But there is a slight difference in Java and TypeScript and JavaScript. JavaScript, TypeScript is same process. And in Java, we have two different things actually. So normal arrays and array list. So both are behaving as a similar, having similar kind of behavior. We have an array and also array list in Java. But here we have a same one thing, one array itself, which is also supporting all array list properties. Okay. So let's see what is an array. So that's the reason we can call array is also a collection. In TypeScript and JavaScript, we can also call array as a collection. But in Java, we have a array list, which is a different, which is called as a collection there. And normal array is a different. Okay. All right. So let's see what is an array and what are the things we can do in arrays and so on. So it will take 2 sessions. It is a lengthy topic. First, let us start with some basics. So in arrays basically is nothing but what. So normally if I take any variable, we can store a single value at a time. A variable can hold a single value at a time. We cannot store multiple values. And again, if you're trying to store another value, the old value will be replaced with the new value. So at a time, the variable or primitive variable can hold a single value. Sometimes if we want to store multiple values, let's say I want to store employee IDs, all the IDs in one single variable, or student IDs or employee names I want to store in single variable. And that is not possible with the primitive variable. Primitive variable in the sense is normal with the data types like a number, string, boolean. So these variables cannot store multiple values or group of values into a single variable. So to store multiple sets of data or multiple values into single variable, then we go for array concept. So array is also a variable which can hold multiple values, and it can be same data type or a different data types. Array can hold multiple values which can be same data type or multiple data types. So that is the definition of array in TypeScript and JavaScript. So let us see a few examples. So let's go and create new folder, day 9. So new file, arrays.ts. Okay, so as per the definition, an array is a special type of variable that stores multiple values. The values can be of the same data type or different data type. So here in TypeScript and JavaScript, arrays allows to store data in different types or same types. Arrays can declare with the square bracket. So this is again same syntax even in Java also. But here there is additional way, another way to define arrays using array keyword. This is called as a generic way. So by using array, we can also create an array. So this is by using bracket. This is one approach. There is another approach by using array. This is again predefined class in JavaScript and TypeScript. And we can also call it as a data type. Okay, nothing wrong in that. We have discussed at the beginning a primitive and derived data type. Like this comes under the derived data type. So by using bracket or by using this array, we can declare an array, and array is always start index from 0. So basically arrays follow the indexing concept. Indexing is nothing but what? The location of the element. The location of the element is called an index. So for the beginners, I'm just giving a brief idea what exactly index and how exactly array will be created and how we can store the elements in the array. Simple, if I create an array. So what I say, array is nothing but a group of elements or set of elements or set of values. So it will store like this. Let's say this is my array, and which can create multiple locations. How many values we want to store in this array, we can specify that number at the time of declaration. So let's say this will create, let's say when I say create an array with 5 values, then 5 locations will be created. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations will be created. And this array is represented with some variable. Let's say I'm giving some name called A. So this is my array. And this variable is representing this entire array, and in which we can store multiple values. Let's say here I want to store some value 20 or 30, 40, 50 like this. So it depends on the size of an array. We can store only those many number of values. Okay, so inside this array, if you want to add values or if you want to retrieve the values from this array individually, we use something called index. Every array works based on index. So the index is nothing but an address of the element or the location of the element or position of the element. So the index will start from 0. So here the position is 0. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. So every element we can access or we can store in the array using this index. Index is representing a position of the element. Suppose if you want to add some value a, suppose this is a first position. So if you want to add value a of 1 equal to 20. Now this is a value will be stored in the first position. And similarly, if you want to retrieve the value, same again. Suppose if you want to retrieve the third position value, so I can say a of 3. If I put this in the console.log, this will extract the value exactly which is there inside the location number 3. So like this, we can add or we can get the data from this array using an indexing. Based on the index, the array works. So indexing always start from 0. Index, whenever you want to count, index start from 0. So if I provide array size is 5, so index is start from 0 to 4. That means 0 to n minus 1. So the starting index is 0, the last index is always n minus 1. If the array length is 5, then 5 minus 1, 4 is the last index. So we cannot store the value in the fifth position. Even though size is 5, but there is no location for 5. Because index will start from 0, 4 is a last index. We can call it as a lower bound and upper bound. Okay. And if you're trying to store a value at the fifth location, then it will throw array index out of bound exception. Okay. So this is how exactly the array works. Now we'll see some examples. And there are many things we can do in arrays. We'll see each and everything one by one. So arrays are an ordered collection of elements. There are two things: order collection, in order collection. Order collection means what? In whichever order we have stored elements or values in the array, in the same order it will store. Okay, so let's say first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the same order it will store. At the time of retrieving also we can get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in whichever order we have added elements or values to the array, in the same order it will store in the memory. So that's the reason which is also called as ordered collection. So in TypeScript and JavaScript, arrays is directly, it is a collection. But in Java, we have a normal arrays and array list. Array list is called as a collection, but array is a different. But in TypeScript and JavaScript, it is same. Okay. So these are the few important points which we need to understand before starting arrays concept. Okay. Now, so the fundamentally, what is the main purpose of using arrays concept is to store multiple values or group of values if you want to represent with single variable. That is possible using arrays concept. Using array, it is possible. Okay. Now, so let's see some examples. First thing, how we can declare an array, how we can store data in the array. That's the first thing. And then we will see how we can do different operations on arrays. First thing, how to declare an array, how we can store data in the array. There are multiple approaches are there. So let me show you the first approach. Approach 1. How we can declare an array, how we can store values in an array. Using a literal. Literal in the sense what? A data type. So we can directly specify the variable name, type, and all. So this is the first approach. Normally, how we will define the normal variable? Using let keyword. Let's say I want to store a multiple names into an array. Simply I can say let names, and we specify the data type as usual. Right? If it is a normal type of variable or primitive type, so directly we can assign the data like this, which can hold only single value. But now I want to store a group of values or multiple values. So we need to represent this variable as an array. So for that we need to use bracket like this. and equal to, I say single bracket, empty bracket. So this is called simply declaration. I have not assigned any data. It is simply called declaration. So let names is a variable name, colon, string is a data type. And when I say string here, this array can hold only string data type. We can still store multiple values in array, but as per the declaration, we need to follow. So here, as per the declaration, I simply say only string here. So in that case, it is allowed us to store only string type of data. All values should be string. We can also declare an array with a generic type, so where we can store different type of data. So first let us start with the basic. So let is a keyword, names is a variable, string is a type, and because it is an array, we need to represent with a square bracket. Equal to, we are not assigning any data so far. So if I don't assign any data, simply say bracket. This is called declaration, array declaration. I have not assigned any data, just I declared an array. So now the names is a array variable declared. Once we declare it, we need to assign some data. We need to add some data to the array. That means initializing the values. Initialization. How we can do initialization? Initialization or assigning values. So once you declare an array, we can store or we can initialize or we can assign the data into the array. So as I said beginning, so what is the size of this array? Currently, we don't have any size. This array, so don't have any size because in TypeScript and JavaScript, array is more dynamic. There is no fixed size. Okay, but if you specify this fixed size, that becomes a tuple. There is another concept is called tuple. So tuple is also same as an array, but the major difference is array is not fixed, but a tuple is a fixed. Okay, here array is a not fixed, it is a dynamic. We can store n number of values. But when you go to tuple, there is a fixed. So we can specify the number, how many values we need to store in array. So that is a different story. So basically array JavaScript arrays or TypeScript arrays are dynamic in nature. So we can store n number of values if we declare array like this. Okay. So for example, let's say if I try to put some size here, let's say 5. Now it is started giving an error. So when I say put here, the type never is not assigned to type string. So this is not allowed. Size is not allowed. Okay, so now let us see how we can initialize or assign the data into this particular array. So to assign the data, how we can access using index. Array will start with the index. Array can access the locations using indexes. So simply we can do names, array name, and starting position 0. I'm adding some data like this. And similarly, I'll try to add some more inputs. Let's say 0 positions on the first position. I say Smith, this is another value. And the next one, I can say Peter. So this is 0, 1, 2, and 3. I say Scott. So how many values I have added? Totally 4 values I have added into array. So this is the declaration and this is the assigning the data into the array. This is the first approach. Okay, so we can declare and then we can do initialization. Suppose if you want to do declaration and initialization both with one single shot or one single statement. I don't want to do them separately. I just want to do one single shot. So then we can follow another syntax. So the alternative syntax is also there. This is not the second approach, same approach, but we are combining these two into one single approach, one single statement. Okay. So what I can do is I can just simply say comment. This is the first method, and second method is to combine these two, declaration and initialization. Simply you can do like this. I'll say let names string. This is same, but here instead of keeping empty bracket, we can directly add values here. So here I'll say John and then Smith and Peter, right? And then and Scott. So this is how we can store data into that. So let names string equal to John, Smith, Peter, and Scott. So we can just put like this. So you can use double quotations, single quotations also to represent the strings. So this is the way we can add one single statement which contains both the declaration and also initialization. This is an example for declaration plus initialization, both. So you can add as many values you want here and here also. So when we prefer this approach, mostly this approach won't prefer, because if you want to add values individually one by one, if you have few number of values, you can simply do that. But if you have 10 values, 20 values, so instead of writing many statements, simply you can write one single statement. So this approach is preferable if you have a number of values, more number of values. Okay. So this is one first approach. Suppose if you want to print the values, I want to see what are the values I have added to the array. So simply you can say console.log of specify the name of the array. So later I'll show you how we can use different looping statements to retrieve the data from array. But this is a simple and shortcut way. Just if you want to see the data, whatever you have added in the array, simply you can say console.log, specify the name of an array. Just like we print the value of the variable, right? Similarly, we can print the values of the array variable. So let's go and execute. You can say tsx day9 slash arrays dot ts. Yeah, now we can see this is the output we got. So whatever values we have added, same values we capture here. Even if you go to the first approach here, declaration is one statement, initialization is another statement. So if you go with this also, you can use same console.log. So this will print the same data, no difference. The only difference is here we have added data in multiple lines based on index, and here without specifying any index, we can directly add the values. Even if I don't specify any indexes, still it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. Okay. So this is approach 1, using literal. Using literal means we use a let keyword, we use a data type, everything. So this is the first approach, to declare an array. Now there is another approach using generic way, where we can use this keyword called array type. By using array type also, we can create an array. Especially in JavaScript and TypeScript, most of the times we prefer this approach. Instead of going with this, we prefer this approach. Okay. Let us see. So another approach 2, using generic way. That means using the array keyword. Array is a type. Array is also one of the type. Approach 2. Okay, so now let me show you. This is second approach, using array generic type. We can call it as a generic way. How we can define the array values. So I'll show you different flavors or different ways. So just remember. So for example, again, I want to store employee names into an array. So how we can do this? Simply can say let array name emp names. So here, instead of specifying the data type directly, or instead of using bracket, we use something called array. Okay, this is the type actually, array. And what type of data we are going to store in the array, we need to specify that in angular brackets. In angular brackets, specify the data type. So this is another way. So directly you can put the data in the bracket. This is again same process. So whatever data we put here, same process, same we can add like this. Okay, so this is the way we can do that. So emp names is a variable name, array is a type, string is a data type, and this is a data. So here again, index won't come into picture. Still it will consider index. This is 0, 1, 2, 3. But here we haven't specified any index. So just like this. So same kind of a declaration, both are almost similar, but here we specify the string and square bracket. Here we haven't specified bracket. Instead, we use something called array type. This is another way to declare an array. Suppose if I want to store only numbers in array, I want to store only numbers. So then how we can declare? Can say let's say EMP IDs. I want to store group of EMP ID, multiple EMP IDs. EMP ID is normally number. So colon array, and data type is what? Number. Number equal to, again in the bracket, we can store EMP numbers. Let's say 101 or 102, 103, 104, and so on, like this. So this is another type of an array, which we can store only numbers. So it depends on the type here. It will decide what type of data we want to store. This is another example. If you want to store only numbers, let's say I want to store a different type of data. So with a combination of string and number, I want to store a combination of string as well as numbers. So then we can declare an array like this. Let's say data colon array. Okay, now I want to store string or number. So how we can specify the type here? Either string or number using union. We have a union, right? A string or number. So when I use this union, then we can store either string or a number. So now how we can store the data here? Either combination of strings and numbers. Let's say here I'll store a John and comma number. Again I'll store a string, then again another number, then again I can store a string, then again I can store. We can combine. You can also specify the names simultaneously like this. Nothing wrong like this. Okay, so this is how we can store data in a array, string as well as number. So this array allowed to store only strings or numbers, only strings or numbers. But I want to store any type of data. It can be string or number, it can be boolean, or it can be anything. So then how we can declare this array? Any type of data, all kinds of data it should accept. Then how we can declare what is the type? Using any. So I can say let's say mixed data, mixed type of data. Array is a keyword, and bracket we specify any. So any means all kinds of data is accepted. So equal to, in the bracket I can specify, let's say number, string, boolean, also null also we can store. Boolean, null also we can store. So this is how we can store mixed data. Any type of data we can store. So these are a few examples how we can store arrays in different types. So same kind of a declaration, but type data is different. So this will allow only string type of data. This will allow only number type. This will allow only string and number type, and this will allow all kinds of types. So this is how we can declare an array in generic way, or we can call it as a generic array. When I use array keyword, we call it as a generic array. Or if I don't want to use an array, you can also go with this kind of declaration. Okay, and here also we can specify different data types. If you want, you can use union operator, you can use anything you can use. So either go for this one or you can go for this one. So these are the two approaches are there. So this is specific to TypeScript and JavaScript. So this particular approach is not there in Java or Python or any other programming languages. This approach is specific to JavaScript and TypeScript. Only it will work. Okay, but again, if you go for JavaScript, you no need to type, you no need to use this data type also, because in JavaScript you don't have a types. So we don't need to specify the type also. It can, by default, it will allow all kinds of data. But in TypeScript, because it's a type strictly typed, so we need to specify the data type. But this is a generic definition. This syntax will work even Java, Python, everywhere. In all kinds of programming languages, this syntax will work. But this is only for JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay. Now, so let us see how we can do different kinds of operations on this array. First thing, suppose I want to capture this data. Suppose if we simply print this array, how we can do, you can say console.log. And if you want to print this array, you can simply say emp names. So this will print all the data, and just like an array like this. So this is comes from the previous statement here. I'm commenting this. Now when I execute this, it will just print the data like this. It is just only visibility. So what is the data we have added? We can simply visit, or we can simply view the data in array. Suppose if you want to do any operations on this data, suppose I want to extract this value, I want to extract this one. How we can do that? So we can extract a specific value from an array. We have to use an index. We have to use an index. So for example, let's say I want to get Smith. So what is an index of Smith here? According to these values, what is an index of Smith? 1 is an index, because index will start from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3. So 1 is an index of Smith. So simply you can say console.log of, and the name of an array is what? emp names of bracket of 1. So this will actually get the specific value from that particular position. Now it is written Smith as an output. Okay, this is the way we can extract a specific value. Similarly, I want to extract all these values individually. So one after another. First I want to extract John, then Smith, Peter, Scott. At the same time, suppose if you don't know how many values are there in this array, then how we can do that? We have an attribute for array which is called length. So by using length attribute, we can capture how many values are there in this array. That will return how many values are there in array. And based on that, we can write a looping statement in which we can retrieve each individual value. Okay. Now let me show you how we can iterate the array using looping statement. So there are multiple looping statements we can use, different flavors of for loop I'm going to show you, especially for arrays. First, let us start with the classic for loop or traditional for loop, which normally we are going to use. Okay, so let me use a traditional for loop. Iterating over an array using traditional for loop. So traditional for loop is nothing but what? We have starting point, initialization, condition, and incrementation. All three sections will be there in the for loop. That's a classic for loop or traditional for loop. So by using this traditional for loop, how we can print the values. So let us see. First, I'm writing a simple message, console.log, and here employee names. I'm just trying to print employee names. Okay, so now let me start writing a looping statement, and through the loop, how we can extract the data. So I want to read this particular data, employee names. So then you can just write a for loop. Okay, so now where we need to start actually. So based on index, we can access. As I said beginning, index is compulsory. If I use classic for loop, index is compulsory. Without index, we cannot extract the value. So where the index will start? 0 is a starting point. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So it depends on how many values we have. Those many number of times we have to iterate the loop, or we need to repeat the loop. So starting point is what? 0. So here I'm defining a variable. Let's say let I equal to 0. This is a starting point. Let I equal to 0 is a starting point. Okay. So how many times we have to repeat this? How many times we have to repeat? It depends on number of values. Here we already know 4 values are there. So simply we can say I less than or equal to 4. Then I plus plus. We can increment index in every time 1. This is okay. But if I don't know how many values are there in array, then how we can do that? So the size of an array we can dynamically capture using a length attribute. Okay. So before using it, let me show you length attribute, how exactly it will return. So here I'm writing a simple statement. Let's try to get the length as a console.log of, right? So emp names dot length. So this is an attribute. This is not the function. This is not a method. Okay, simple an attribute of an array. So this will actually return the number of values which are stored in the array. So we can simply say size of an array. This will return a size of an array, comma. I'm just printing the value. So you can see size of an array is what? 4 it is returning. So 4 is representing what? How many values are there? How many values are there? It is not representing an index. Remember that. 4 is representing how many values. how many values are stored. How many values are stored? It is not representing an index, remember. Index is starting from 0. Index is starting from 0. According to the index, how many values we have stored here? According to the index, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3. So 0 is a starting point, 3 is a upper bound. Lower bound is 0, upper bound is only 3. So if the length is 4, what is the upper bound of an array in that case? The length is 4. Then what could be the upper bound? 3. That means if the length is n, the upper bound is n minus 1 always. If the length is 4, the last value index is what? N minus 1. 4 minus 1. That is 3. This is a thumb rule. Remember this. Okay. Whenever you find the size, you can define like this. Suppose you have written like this. Instead of 4, I simply say emp names dot length. So what this will return? Emp names dot length return 4. 4. So we need to get the value from 0 to 0, 1, 2, 3. Do we have 4? Do we have a fourth index in this? Index 0, 1, 2, 3 is the last. We don't have 4 actually. But length is returning 4. So how we can put the condition now? I less than emp names dot length. Everybody has understood this point? Why I should not put I less than or equal to employees? Only I less than employees dot length, because length will give you how many elements are there. That is again 4 it is giving. But do we have a fourth index here? Index 4 is there? No. 3 is the last index according to the index 0, 1, 2 if I count. So when I use length attribute, we should say employee names dot length less than. Or in another way, how we can specify, you can say I less than or equal to employees names dot length minus 1 you have to do. Both are correct. Either you have to do minus 1 or you can simply say I less than. Okay, these are the conditions. I less than emp name dot length, or you can also specify the condition. So I'm just here I'm writing I less than or equal to emp names dot length minus 1 also you can use. Okay, so this is a simple logic. If you don't know how many values you have stored in array, simply you can capture the length and those many times we can repeat the for loop. Okay, starting point is 0, the condition is true, it will repeat till goes to last element and incrementation. Every time I value should be incremented by 1, index will be incremented by 1. Now how to extract the value here? Console.log of how to extract the value. Specify the name of an array, same thing. Here we have done, right? So here, same approach. But instead of passing the hard-coded value, we simply pass I. Because every time I value will be incremented. First time I value 0, condition is true. Now here employee names of 0 will be printed. Next time I value become 1, now employee names of 1. Then I value becomes 2, then employees names of 2. Then I value becomes 3, now employee names of 3. Then I value becomes 4. So as soon as become 4, the condition become false. Then it will exit from the for loop. So this is how it will work. So this is how we can extract the data from an array using traditional for loop or classical for loop. Okay. Now let me print this. Perfect. Now you can see size of an array 4. Now we have printed all the values from an array. 4 values we have extracted from an array using traditional for loop. And this is one approach. So what is I here? I is representing an index. I is representing an index. Okay, so understood everyone. So this is the approach 1, iterating an array using traditional for loop. Okay, here index is mandatory. So if you don't know the index, we cannot extract. Based on index only, we are retrieving the data. Right. Now there is another way. Let me show you another example. Example 2. So especially for derived data type arrays or tuples, right? Especially for these type of arrays, we have two different type of for loops provided by TypeScript and JavaScript. One is for in loop, for off loop. These are the two different for loop. For in, for off. Okay. Even for each is also there, but that comes under the function. For each comes under the function. So, or we can say array method. So that we will discuss separately array methods in the next class. And today we will focus on two different looping statements, another additional loops. So the second looping is for in. For in. Example 2. Iterating the loop, iterating array using for in loop, which is also used in indexing concept. Which is also used in indexing concept. So let me write a looping statement. Console.log. So here we printed employee names, right? So this time we'll print employee IDs. Employee IDs. Okay. So how we can use for in loop? For in. It is very simple, a very short syntax, but here we don't have incrementation, declaration, initialization, condition, nothing. So very simple. First we need to define the variable. Let's say let I. I is representing an index again. Let I. Then we use one operator called in. In emp IDs. Let I in emp IDs. What is the name of an array? Emp IDs. Like this. Okay. So here I is acting as an index. Obviously we know index start from 0 itself. So how we can extract the data inside? Simply say console.log of emp IDs. Emp IDs is the name of an array. Bracket, pass the I value index. That's it. Here there is no condition, there is no incrementation. That will automatically take care of loop itself. So just we need to specify the variable. That's it. So let I in array variable. So then what happens? First, by default I value start from 0 because we are saying in array. This is an array name. So index will start from 0 by default. So I is a 0. Then we are extracting emp IDs of 0. And again, second time I value become 1 automatically. So here again 1. Next time 2, 3, 4 like this. Okay. So this is another for loop. This is called for in loop. This is also we will consider index. Even though we are not specifying the starting point, condition and ending point, still it will works with index. But how many times this loop will repeat? We haven't specified any condition, right? But how this loop will exit? So as soon as the elements or values are completed, automatically the loop will be exited. So we no need to specify any condition. Okay. So as soon as the loop is all emp IDs are printed or all emp IDs are captured, automatically the loop will be exited. So let me execute this again. See, we got all the employee IDs. So there is no need of specify the starting index, no need of specify the condition or incrementation. Simply specify single variable. Let I in emp IDs. In whichever name is specified for array, specify the name of an array. That's it. So simple write a statement console.log name of the array of index. We can pass this I value here. So this will print all the values. This is using for in loop. This is especially for collections, arrays, tuples. We can use this. Okay. Now we use only for printing the values. What is that question? What is question mark? Where do we use question mark? Is different. Question mark comes under ternary operator, not here. Okay, so question mark won't come here. This is just a looping statement we were discussing. Okay, so everybody's understood the second one. So the first one is using traditional statement. The second one is using for in loop. You can specify whichever loop you have, whichever array you have here, that will be stored in I, and we can extract the value directly here. So how we have defined emp id values. We already defined here. You can see this. We already added values into emp id. So at the beginning itself, I've already stored 4 different variables. Okay, so in operator. So in is here. So in is nothing but what? This is an operator. It's a syntax. Let I in emp IDs. What does it mean? So in emp IDs, get the first value into I, then it will print. And the next iteration, get another value from emp IDs, then print it. Next iteration, third, fourth, like this it will keep repeating. I is representing an index, not a value here. Okay, yeah. So I is not extracting the value. I is just representing an index. By using the index, here we are extracting the value. In the console.log, we are extracting the value. Okay, so we are not using in operator for printing. This is not a printing operator. It is just for repeating the indexes one after another. In is using here for repeating the values. So this is a syntax which you have given by TypeScript. We are using as it is. Okay. So where we are extracting the data? Here we are extracting the data by specifying the index. Okay. I is representing only index. Okay. This is one type of loop. There is another type of for loop again where we use for of. For of. In the for of, we no need to use index. So here we use index concept. In the second type also we use index concept. There is another for loop where we no need to use indexing. Without using indexing concept, we can directly extract the values from an array. For example, let's say for of. This is another type of loop. So now let's see, this time I'll extract the data from the mixed data. So let's try to get the mixed data. So I say console.log. I say mixed data. So just observe how I'm writing this. This is a special type of loop. Without having index, we can extract the data. Same syntax for. And here, again, we need to define the variable. But here we don't follow index. We extract the value directly from array. So we define a variable called value is a variable of value of array name. Okay, so let's take any array. So you can take this mixed data or you can take this data, whichever you want. Let me take this because we have multiple values. So you can say value of data. So now here you can simply directly print console.log of value. So if I look at this, we haven't used any index. So here in the previous for loop, here I is representing an index. But here the value is representing value itself, not an index. So that is a major difference between this one and this one. So in for in loop, we have to use this I as an index, not a value. So that's the reason again we have to extract the value by passing an index into the array. But here we are directly extracting the value from data. So this value we can directly print here. So this is exactly equal to for each loop in array. Okay, in array we have a for each loop, right? Exactly it is similar here. So every time from the data, first value will store here and we are printing. Second iteration, second value will store in value, then we are printing. Third iteration, fourth iteration, like this it will keep on going till it completes all the values from array. Okay, so this value is a variable. You can also put I, nothing wrong. But here the I is what? Index. But here I is acting as a value. So if I give same name, you will be confused. So that's the reason I'm giving a simple variable. Variable name is value. This is not the keyword. Okay, this can be user defined. You can put whatever name you want. So here I'm using data. So data is also array we have defined here. And you can also capture mixed data. If you want to get mixed data, instead of data, you can put mixed data. So that will return the value. So you can see you got all the data, mixed data. Okay, so when I say only data, this is another array. You will get only the data from the array. So here we stored only strings and numbers, right? So this is the data we were able to capture. So now everybody's understood the difference between these two for loops. So in for in loop, I is acting as an index. So again, we have to write this statement to extract the value. But in for off loop, we no need to use any index. We can directly capture the values from data one by one, and we are able to print here. Okay. So these are the three different ways we can extract the data from an arrays. One approach is using a traditional for loop. Second approach using for in loop. Third approach we use for off loop, in which we can directly extract the values from an array. So these are the three different ways we can extract the data from array. Individual data, individual values we can extract using for loops. And if you again want to capture the entire data in one shot, simply put array name in console.log like this. So that will extract the entire data and print in as just like an array format. But if you want to retrieve individual values, then you have to go for looping statements. Okay. So very important entry question here. What is the difference between for in loop, for off loop? For in loop follows the indexing concept, whereas for off loop don't use any index. It will capture the data directly one after another and print the value directly. So this is how we can capture or we can retrieve the data from arrays using three different for loops. Okay, clear everyone so far? So now I'm going to show you functions along with an arrays. In the last classes, we have understood about functions, how to declare the function, how to call the function. So this time I'm going to show you some more examples, how we can use functions along with arrays. I think in the last class, someone is asked the question, how we can pass an array to the function, how we can return the multiple values from the function. So function can return a single value at a time, right? So function can also return multiple values. So that is possible using arrays concept. Okay. So we'll see how we can achieve this. Next concept, array with functions. Another example, how we can pass an array to the function. Array is what? Basically array is also a variable. Just like other variables, array is also a variable. But what is the major difference with a normal variable, array variable? So normal primitive variable can hold only a single value, whereas an array variable can hold multiple values. That is the major difference. So just like a normal variable, how we can pass to the function, similarly, array variable also we can pass to the function. Array variable also we can pass to the function. Similar, array can also return the array. Sorry, function can also return an array. Vice versa. Okay, so let's see how we can achieve this. Passing an array to the function. We can pass array variable to the function. So how it is possible? So let me show you an example. So what I'll do is, I will create a function, and that I will create a function. So that will take an array as a parameter, and array along with array, I will also pass some other value. So it will find the values present in array or not. So basically I'm applying the search an element in an array using a function. I'm trying to search a value inside the array. So what is the simple logic here is simple. I can say, let us say I have multiple values in array like this, multiple values, multiple numbers. Then I want to search a number. Let's say 30. I want to search whether this value is present in this array or not. So this is basically an array and this is a number I want to search. So how we can apply this, how we can do this? First, we will compare this number with the first value. If both are same, then found. If it is not same, then go for another value. If it is not same, then go for another value. Like this, we will retrieve each and every value from an array, compare with our expected number. And wherever it is matching, then we will exit from the loop and we can simply print element is found. This is simple logic. Okay. Now, so let us achieve this using functions concept. So you can also write directly using for loop without using function. But here my intention is I want to show you how we can pass an array to the function. Okay. Without function also we can implement the logic. No problem. Okay. So first of all, let us create a function. Then we will call it. Okay. So how to create a function? Function, I'm normally creating a function. named function itself. If you want, you can create array function also, nothing wrong in that. So I can say function name is search. Function name is search. And in this, I will pass two parameters. One is which element I want to search. So that is one parameter, which is a number. Second, in which this element should be searched. Array I want to pass. So here, whenever I pass array variable to this function, I need to receive that array variable. So how we can receive it? Let's say I'm creating a variable called ARR, which is representing an array, colon. Basically, it is a number type of an array. So data type is what? A number. And also it is an array. How we can represent an array? Using bracket, like this. So now the first variable is a primitive. Second variable is a array. Now what is the return type of this? As of now, I will return a Boolean value. True or false I will return. If element is found, then I will return true. If element is not found, then I will return false. So return type is Boolean. Okay, now let us implement this function. So two parameters I'm taking. One is a primitive value, which is a number. I want to check whether this element is present inside this array or not. So one is an element, second one is array I'm taking as a parameter. Now, so let us simply implement you can write a normal for loop, or you can use whichever loop you want. Okay, you can use any loop. You can use this value loop, or if you want use this loop, or you can use classic for loop, whichever way you want to use. So let me just use classic for loop because I'm working with an index. So here what I'll do, same loop I'm copying here. Just observe. I starting from 0, index starting from 0. And what is array name which we have given here? ARR. So I say ARR dot length and I plus plus. And inside this, what we need to do? We need to extract each and every individual value that I will compare with what? A number. So how to extract individual value? Name of array is ARR of I. That will return the value from an array, first value from array. So once you capture this value, what we need to do with this value? We need to compare with the actual value which we are looking for using if condition. So inside the for loop, I'll put one if condition. If ARR of I, which is equal to element, which is you can use a double equal to also. I'm using strict equality. And if both are equal, right, array element and the element which you are looking for, if both are equal, so then what we should do? We should return, I'm not printing element found, I simply return true. I'm simply return true. Okay. Suppose if both values are not matching, so then obviously the loop will be returned. Okay, so if it is not matching, what we need to do? We need to go with another value. So if this value is equal to element, so return true. Return true is nothing but what? Element found. Okay, if not found, then what will happen? Again it will go up, increment the value, again get another value, again will compare. So this loop will be repeated multiple times till the element is found. As soon as the element found, it will simply return the true and exit from the for loop. Okay, suppose if the value is not matching with any of the element, suppose the array elements are not matching with this element, so then for loop will be exited, but what we should return at the ultimately? We need to return false. Okay, if condition is matched, true will be returned. If the condition is false, then it will capture another value and it will keep repeating. And once it is exited, then return false. So at a time it will return true or false. Okay, this is simple logic, searching logic I have written. Fine. So ultimately what this function will do? The function will take a value and it will verify, or it will check this value is present inside this particular array or not. If it is present, then returns true. If it is not present, return false. This is the functionality of this function. Okay. So now how to call this function? By passing array as an argument. How to call the function? So first we need to pass an array as an argument, right? We need to pass an array as an argument. So first we will declare an array. let ARR, which is a number, and here in the bracket I can put some numbers. You can say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So this is my array. Now I want to pass this array to the function at the time of calling the function. Okay, how to call the function? Name of the function is what? Search. And what's the first parameter is? Number. So what is the value I want to search for? Let's say 30 I'm passing. Second parameter should be array we have to pass. Simply can say ARR. That's it. So now this function is taking two parameters. One is primitive. Second one is array parameter is taking. Is this enough here? No. It is returning a Boolean value, true or false. So we need to hold that value in another variable, or you can directly print as a console.log of search 30 comma ARR. So this is how we need to. And what is an output you are expecting here is true, because 30 is there inside this array. Similarly, let me just try to find 100. So obviously it should return false. It should return false, right? Okay, let's execute and see now. So we are passing array as an argument. Also here we are receiving array as a parameter. And by using this array, we are doing some operation inside the function. Okay, now execute. So true and false is written. True means 30 is present inside the array, 100 is not present. Okay, so this is an example how we can pass array as an argument to the function. It is possible because array is also a kind of a variable, but the only difference is array contains multiple values. That's the only difference. But just like a normal variable, you can also pass array variable. Okay, so this is an example for how we can pass array to the function. Similarly, array, the function can also return an array. Here, what is the return type? Boolean is a return type. But the function can also, just like how it is taking the array as a parameter, it is also can return array as a output. So let's see another example now. Example 5. How the function will return an array. So in this example, I show you both the combination. So function will take array as a parameter. Also return type is also an array. Both are arrays. Passing the value as an array and returning the value also array. Both are arrays. Okay. Now before that, let me create a function. So now this time what the function will do is, I will pass group of strings to the function, and that function will convert all the strings into lowercase characters and return all lowercase character as an array. Okay, so that is the purpose of the function. So let me show you. Let's say I will create a string array. Let's say this is my string array. Let's say here I'm passing lowercase character A, B, C, some X, Y, Z. Okay, some M, N, O, like this. So there are lowercase character I'm passing, or mixed characters, whatever. This is basically an array, string type of an array. I will pass this array to the function, and the function will convert all these values into uppercase characters and store them in another array. And finally, it should also return an array. And now this array contains uppercase characters like this: A, B, C, X, Y, Z, M1, like this. So I'm passing this array to the function, and the function will return another array which contains only uppercase characters. So this function will convert lowercase to uppercase. Every individual value in array, you should convert into uppercase. So this is the functionality we'll implement inside the function. So let us see how we can implement. So basically this function will take only one single array parameter and return one single array parameter, array variable. Okay, let's go and create a function. So I'll name it as a function. So I'll just give some name to the function. I say function capitalize words. Okay. And as I said, this function will take array as a parameter. So I'll define one array here, ARR. And what type of array it should be? It should be string type of an array because I'm passing strings. String, how we can represent array using bracket. Now return type is what? Again, string array is a return type. So string array. So I'm passing string array as a parameter and the function is also returning string array as a return type. Now, so let us implement this. So what is the logic? First of all, let's see how we can read values one by one. So for that, what I'll do, I for, and again, I'm using traditional for loop. If you want to explore this other for loop, you can write, no, not a problem. So I can say let index start from 1. So let's I equal to 0, I less than arr dot length, I plus plus. Okay, now how to extract the values from an array? Simply, you can say console dot log of arr of I. So normally what happens, this loop will print all the values whichever I pass inside this array. But that is not our intention here. So whatever value we have extracted here, we need to convert that value into uppercase. And after converting that uppercase values, I will store in some other array. I will take one temporary array, I will define another array, and whatever the values we have already converted into uppercase, I will store those uppercase characters or uppercase values in another array. So second array I'm defining here. So let's create another array called result array. And this is also string type of an array. Okay, this is also an empty array, string type of an array. I'll define like this. So now here, whatever value we have extracted, we convert that value into uppercase, and then I will store that value in the new array variable. So how to convert this array string into uppercase? So in JavaScript and TypeScript, we have a special methods are there. So again, in the next classes, I will discuss in detail about all string methods. But here I'm trying to introduce one simple method called dot to uppercase. This is the function. This is the method. Okay, this is the built-in method. So we have different methods are there, string method, array methods. In the next classes, we will understand this. So what basically this to uppercase method will do, this will convert this value into uppercase character. Okay, this is converted, but where we have to store this converted value? Inside this array of I, in the same position again. Position we should not change, right? In whichever position we have extracted, converted to uppercase, the uppercase value we have to store in the same position of result array. Is this logic clear, everyone? So from our array, we are capturing the value, converting into uppercase and storing into the another array at the same position, same location. So ARR contains the lowercase characters, result contains the uppercase characters. So the location is same exactly. Okay. So once this loop is completed, then what will happen? All the values will be converted into uppercase and stored into result array. Now what we need to return finally? Which array we have to return? Result or ARR? Which array we have to return? Result array we have to return. Simply say return result. So what is this result now? Result is an array which contains a multiple values. So this is how we can return multiple values. A function can also return multiple values. So result is a variable. Result is an array variable which is having multiple values. So it is able to return. So this function taking array as a parameter, converting them into uppercase characters and store into another array and returning that array. So parameters are also an array. Return type is also an array. So how to call the function now? Capitalized words. So in this we need to pass only array. So how we can pass an array? First we will declare an array. So I can say let words. Words is the name of an array I'm giving. String type of an array. And let's store some values here. Let's say hello. You can put lowercase, uppercase, mixed case, wherever. But finally everything is converted into uppercase. You can say world. Say TypeScript. Okay. So I'm just giving 3 values into an array. Now I want to pass this array to the capitalized words. How to pass this? Simply capitalized words and pass these words. And it is returning the value. Array also it is returning. So put this in console.log because it is returning the values. So this is how we can pass the array as a parameter. Also a function can return array. Okay, this is how we need to do. So when I execute, perfect. So this is the output. You can see all the characters are changed into uppercase characters. Okay, so this is how we can use arrays concept along with the functions. Okay, so in the next class, I will discuss about array methods. There are so many concepts still there in arrays concept that we will discuss the next class. But before that, the beginning I told you there is fixed array. So this is a dynamic array. So there is no limit for values. You can store n number of values, keep on adding more values. There is no limit. But if you want to define an array with a fixed size, fixed values, fixed data type, then we go for tuple. So tuple is another type of an array. The only difference is tuple is a fixed type. Okay, so we cannot store the same array here because the values will be replaced. Okay, so if I use this for loop here, so we use some different array, right? So here the same array if I'm trying to use here, you can still use, but you won't get the old array. Previous array values will be gone because after completing the for loop, right, this array contains the uppercase characters. Again, if you want to capture lowercase characters, you cannot. Yes, you can, instead of using a separate array, you can still use like this arrfi. You can directly use like this. No problem. Then what will happen? The old value, whatever you're capturing here, that will be replaced with the old value. So this is also, in that case, you can still return array here. Okay, so that is also fine. All right, so clear everyone. So before moving to the tuple, so tuple is a small concept that is just additional concept of array. That is also an array, but there is a difference between array and tuple. So arrays is a dynamic in nature, so we can store n number of values. There is no limit for that. But the tuple will allow us to store fixed number of values, fixed data type. Even data type is also fixed. We'll see that. Tuple concept. So let's go and create another file. Tuple.txt. Mostly we use only arrays concept. So tuples we don't use mostly. Okay, so let's see what is a tuple. Let's understand the definition. A tuple is a fixed length array where each element have a specific type. Each element has a specific type. It helps in storing multiple fields of different data types together. So let me show you how it is fixed length. Fixed length and fixed data type also. So let me show you an example. First example, tuple. Let's say I just want to store two values in tuple. Let's say tuple with two values. Because as I said, tuple is a fixed number, right? Fixed length. So I'm just specifically saying tuple with two values. How we can declare a tuple, just like an array itself. Let's say person is the name of the tuple, colon. And here we specify the type. So bracket, inside the bracket, I say string comma number. Just observe very carefully, which is a little bit confusing, but it is simple, easy. Let person colon string comma number. What exactly this is? I'm saying person is a tuple, or you can consider as an array. And inside the bracket, what I put string comma number. So the tuple should accept two values, and first value should be string, second value should be number. This is called limitation. I'm clearly saying tuple with two values, and first value should be string, second value should be number. That means what? The length of an array is fixed. Even data types also fixed. So if you want to store the data inside this array or tuple, how we can store? First one is what? String. So you must add only string here. Let's say only string is allowed, comma. Second value is what? Number. So the number only it is allowed. It won't allow anything else. This is how we need to declare a tuple. So tuple is what? A fixed length. So how it will decide the length depends on the data types. Here, two data types are specified, only two. So only two values are allowed. Again, in those two data types, first one is string, second one is number. So the data also, first one is string, second one is number. Okay. So here, it is not an array. It is not an array. It is a tuple. It is a fixed data type and fixed length. So this is not union operator. Remember, don't confuse it. Okay. So if I put this one, this becomes a union operator. This is not allowed. Again, we need to specify the type here. This is the different. Here, this is a tuple. It is not a union operator. It is not a union operator. Tuple with the two values of string comma number. So according to this requirement, I define this tuple. Okay. Now how we can capture this data? Just like an array, we use index. Suppose I say console.log, person is my name of a tuple, and here pass the index. I'll say 0. So this will return John. Similarly, can say person of word return 101. So when I execute it, I can say tuple.ts, just printed two values. So because here we specify only two, we must store only two values. If I try to store another value like this, it won't allow. It will give the error like this. Similarly, if I try to give data type, suppose here instead of John, here also I'm trying to give some number. So this is giving error. So that is the reason is a fixed array. Fixed array is called as a tuple. Okay, this is one example. Let's go for another example. Suppose if we want to print all the values, simply say, just like an array, we can print all the values from person. So this is giving all the values. Fixed length and fixed values. Fixed data type. Okay, let me show you multiple examples. So second example, let's say example 2. So tuple with multiple values. So suppose I want to store multiple values, then how it is possible? Tuple with multiple values. Here we have stored only two values. Both one is string, one is number fixed. But this time I want to store multiple values, a different data type of values. Observe. So let user. Okay, now I want to store multiple values. Number I want to store. First value should be number. Second value should be string. Third value should be boolean. Fourth value again should be number. Next value again should be string. So we need to define like this. And at the time of adding values also, how many values we can add in this array, in this tuple? How many values we can add in this tuple? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 values I can add. And what could be the first value? What should be the first value? Should be number. So I can say 10. Second value should be string. Say John. Third value should be boolean. So true. Next, it should be number 101. And the last also should be string like this. So in whichever order we specified the data types, in the same order, we have to specify the data. And how many types we specified, those many number of values we can add here. Okay, size and data type is fixed. And we cannot jumble these values. Okay, suppose in the first number and string. So here also number and string, but we should not say string and number. The jumbled values also not allowed. Okay, this is fixed array, which is also called as a tuple. Now just print this console.log user. Perfect. Now we got all the values. Okay, so this is another example. Can we read the values using for loops? Yes. So whatever 3 for loops we have used for arrays concept, all 3 for loops will work for tuple also. Okay, let's see how we can use for loops for the tuple. Example 3. So let's iterate tuple with the traditional for loop, so normal for loop. So we already created this tuple user, right? So let's try to read this entire data using a looping statement. For, okay, again, index will start from 0 itself. So let I equal to 0, I less than user dot length. So again, length attribute is there for tuple also. And then I plus plus. Same procedure, no difference. So I say console.log of user of I. Just how we have captured data from array, same way Tuple also works. Only the difference is tuple is a fixed size, fixed data type, fixed length. But array is dynamic. There's a major difference. So now we got all the values individually again in the same order. Whichever order we have stored in the same order, we got the value. Same thing we can also do for using for off loop. So this is for using traditional for loop. And we can also use for in operator, for off operator. So for in loop, for off loop also. We can say second thing for in. Okay, so now you tell me how to write this loop. For in, will it use index or not? For in, will operator use index or not? Yes, it is index based. Okay, it is index based. And for off loop is value based. For off is value based. For in is a index based. Okay, now let me take an index variable. Let I in, what is the name of the tuple? User. That's it. So how to extract the value? Console.log of user of I. That's it. So this will exactly capture the data. Console.log using for in loop. Perfect. So now we got a values. Okay. Same thing we can also use for off loop. Example 5. So this is value based. For off loop is a value based. So again, how we can write as a console.log of using for off loop. For, yeah, now how we can define this? Let instead of index, we directly extract the values. So I can directly say value of user. And here we don't need to access the index, nothing. Simply say console.log of value, you can directly print. That's it. Okay. So when I try this, it will just print the values like this. So by using all three looping statements, we can extract the data from the tuple. Extract the data from the tuple. So this is a fixed size, fixed length, fixed data type. Okay. Now I will combine arrays and tuple. I will combine the array of tuples. Inside one array, we can store multiple tuples. Inside an array, we can store multiple tuples. So what is a tuple? What we have understood here is tuple is nothing but a fixed type. Let's say string comma number. So I can store only two things. And if I store multiple data, I can store multiple values. Only one array. It is single array or multiple arrays. This is one tuple actually. Single array, one tuple. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you how we can create an array with tuples. Array with tuples. Listen carefully, a little bit confusing. See, I'm creating one array here. Let students. So student is nothing but a students. It can be array or it can be tuple. So students, just observe students. You tell me, is it array or tuple? I say number or string. Is it tuple or array? If I don't specify this. If I don't specify this bracket, is it a tuple or an array? It is a tuple or array? It is a tuple actually, right? It is a tuple. But when you put this bracket, then it becomes a array with tuple actually. Okay. So how we can store data in it? Say this is an array. Array means what? Multiple values are allowed. So what was those values? Tuples. We can store multiple tuples in one single array. Observe carefully. So here, how to store the data? Take one big array. Now, if I don't specify this, okay, then what I can do here, I can store one array. So let students number comma string I said here. So this is a normal tuple declaration. So person colon string comma string likes this is a normal tuple declaration. Let the students number comma string. Here I can put some data. Let's say 101 and here John. This is the normal tuple, single tuple. So this is one single tuple. Now I want to have multiple tuples in an array. Then I can add one array like this. Now I can store multiple tuples inside an array. I can take big array. Now this is one tuple, comma, take another tuple, 102, Peter, comma, take another tuple. You can store multiple tuples like this because it's an array of tuples, 103, and say Scott. So like this, you can store multiple tuples inside the one single array. So this is how we need to use. Okay, if I don't specify this bracket, only one tuple is allowed. If we put this bracket, now this becomes an array of tuples. Array of tuples. So now this is one tuple, second and third. Again, if you look at this tuple, it won't deviate the functionality. Number and string. So this is number and string. This is also number and string. This is also number and string. Okay, if I don't put this bracket, it is a purely a single tuple. We can have only one tuple. But if I put this bracket, then it becomes array of tuples. And the tuple should follow this particular format, number and string. Okay, now this is an array. Array contains how many values? Now you tell me how many values are there in the array? How many values are there in array? Students dot length. How many values are there in array? What it will return? 1. This is 2. This is 3. So when I execute this, this will return 3. 3 values are there, and each value is what? A tuple. Each value is a tuple. Now I want to extract this particular tuple. Specific tuple I want to extract. So console.log of how we can extract a specific tuple, specific value from an array, array name of index. So what this will return? This will return 101 and John. It will return 101 and John. So let's execute. Yes. So if you want to extract a specific tuple from an array, again you can pass an index like this. So this will return 101 comma John. This is again tuple. Okay, understood everyone? So this is a tuple with array with a multiple combination, which is called as a tuple array. If I don't put this bracket, only one tuple is allowed. If you put this bracket, multiple tuples are allowed inside a array. Okay, so this is a small concept, not much important, just for interview perspective. Just remember, what is the difference between array and tuple? Array is a dynamic. We can store n number of values, whereas tuple is fixed length and fixed data type. Okay. Yeah. Now tell me, suppose when I say students of 0, only first tuple is returning. But again, from this, I want to extract only 101, or I want to extract only John. How we can extract? How to extract? I'm writing another statement. So students of 0 will return both the values, one complete tuple. And again, from this complete tuple, I want to extract first one or second one. Again, it will follow indexing, right? What is the index of 101? 0. What is the index of John? 1. So how we can do this now? From this, we need to extract this one. Right? So how we can do that? Let us first store this tuple in a variable. Let me store this tuple in a variable. So I can say let some variable. So you can say TP equal to. Okay, now what I've done, whatever the values are capturing from students of 0, 101 John, I'm storing into another tuple. Now what is the values we have in the TP? 101 and John. Now how to extract this? We will write another console. So console.log of TP of 0 or 1. If you want to extract 101, 0. Okay, so tuple 0. So this will actually return 101. Similarly, if I say console.log TP of 1. it will return John, like this. Okay, so if you want to extract a specific values, again, we need to store that tuple in another tuple variable, then extract by using index. So this is how we can work with the tuples. So arrays and tuples, very important concept, and do one round of practice. Can we write student 0, 0 like this? No, no, no. So 0, 0 means again it will go to two-dimensional array. So 0 is representing a row, another 0 is representing a column. Two-dimensional array which will be represented. But in JavaScript and TypeScript, two-dimensional array is not much important. So we are not going to discuss that. We'll skip it. But actually two-dimensional array is nothing but what? It will store rows and columns like this. Okay, here 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. So these are the row indexes. These are the column indexes. So if we want to access this, we need to specify, let's say array name is A, 0, comma 0. So then what will happen? The value which is here will be retrieved. Similarly, if you want to retrieve the value is here, you can say A of 2, comma 2. So this particular syntax is representing two-dimensional array actually. So that is the reason whatever you said, that is won't work. Students of 0, 0 won't work because students is not a two-dimensional array, which is a array, single array. So that won't work. So this is the only way we need to use. Okay, so yeah. How to access Peter? Same thing again. So you need to first extract this tuple using one index. Here we use 0 index, right? 0 index means 101 John is written. Instead, if I use one index here, that will return 102 Peter. And once you extracted 101 Peter, then from that again you can extract 0 and 1. So that will return 102 and Peter. Same thing you can continue or repeat for other tuples. Okay, so simple. You can say instead of 0, students of 0, when I say 1 here, so then you will get 102 and Peter. You can see that. So 102 and Peter. Okay. Sorry. So this is 0 actually. So students length. So students of 0. Students of 0 means 101 John will be returned. Okay, here I'm taking 1. Students of 1. Students of 1 means nothing but what? Students of 1 is this one. 102 and Peter. So here it should return 102 and Peter. Yes. So this is correct. Okay. So understood everyone. So just do one round of practice. And we will continue this topic tomorrow session also. We have different array methods. We have a pop, a push, like concat. There are so many methods are there. So almost 15 to 20 methods are there. We will discuss in the next class, and then I'll give you some assignment on this. Okay. So meanwhile, just do one round of practice, get familiar with arrays concept. Then we will proceed further. So even JavaScript, TypeScript, two-dimensional array is also supported, but that is not important. Okay, we won't use two-dimensional array concept in JavaScript and TypeScript, so we will skip that part. So we can go with the normal arrays, or we can use tuple concept. Okay. All right. So let us stop here for today's session. We will continue in tomorrow.